Also live on Kesme 107.1 in and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Electoral Commission meets top hierarchy of police service as part of preparations for the December 7, 2024 elections. Also, doctors at Konfanoche Teaching Hospital in Kumasi locked in a meeting over whether or not to call off strike against their imminent eviction from their residences. Later on this program, we are live in the Upper West region where shocked residents speak to us about the murder of the CEO of Jirapa Cozy Hotel following the court hearing indicating he was killed by his former manager of HR. And later, legendary high-life musician Kwabena Kwache Kabobo, also known as KK Kabobo, dies. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, the Electoral Commission is meeting up with the top hierarchy of the police as part of preparations for the 2024 elections. In barely 9 months, millions of Ghanaians will go to the polls to elect a new president and 276 members of parliament. Are you aware that the police service will be leading security operations to the police to police the polls on December 7, and will be crossing over very shortly to the venue of that meeting and bring you updates from there. But let's head to Kumasi, where the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital precisely, and doctors there, striking doctors, are in a meeting to decide whether to suspend or continue with laying down of their tools after an earlier meeting with stakeholders. Patients who come for healthcare services at the hospital are still being turned away as management awaits the outcome of the meeting by the doctors. On Wednesday, management representatives of the Lands Commission and representatives of private developers and the leadership of the doctors held a crunch meeting to resolve concerns of the striking doctors. Now, the doctors at the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital on Wednesday embarked on that strike over accommodation issues, and Ibrahim Abubakar is our man. He's following that story for us. He joins us live on the line, so we'll be speaking to him very shortly. But first, let's hear from the Public Relations Officer of the Health Ministry, Isaac Ofeba.
As a ministry, we've stepped in to ensure that that abnormality, that communication is reversed so that doctors are they are now occupying the place, and then we are looking for a suitable place for them temporarily. Then after the renovation or the reconstruction of the facility, they are moved back to their various residents. They are the same people who come and stay there. The government is looking at how to utilize the place so that the same compound can accommodate more residents for more medical practitioners to occupy. When you go and look at what is happening there, it's good, it's nice. You have edifice, a beautiful edifice, to indicate that there have been a number of renovations on some of these facilities. Some of them are being built newly, and it's going to accommodate more medical practitioners, like health workers, nurses, and pharmacists, and all those stuff. But then, the only problem we think we have is the directive given to them to vacate the place without the contractor getting a temporary residence for them.
You heard Isaac Ofeba. He speaks for the Health Ministry. Ibrahim Abubakar joins us live now with the latest from the ground. Ibrahim, what can you tell us?
Well, Beatrice, as we speak, the doctors in some few minutes finish with their meeting, but they said they are not speaking to the media until they communicate the outcome of their meeting to management, and then they will come back and speak to us. So as we speak, they are still on strike because patients are still being turned away. But we are hoping that maybe their communication with the management will be something positive.
Ibrahim, this is not the only challenge the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital has to deal with. We also know that that facility faces imminent disconnection from electricity for owing a little over 27 million Ghana cedis. What has the management been saying about this?
Well, in fact, they are even shocked at the figure, 27 million Ghana cedi. They said they don't know how the ECG arrived at that sum. So they are now engaging with them to see when exactly they started, because previously government was paying electricity bills for them, and they don't know when exactly ECG compiled that list. So they are still engaging with them, and they are also, they said already they have applied to the ECG to separate their meter from that of the national nursing training unit, which is just close by them. It is a separate institution. They have done there over and over again, and nothing positive has come out from ECG. But they will be engaging them, because the money, like they describe, is outrageous, and it will be difficult for them to foot that bill unless then they add it to patients to pay. The public relations officer of Konfanochi, Kwame Krempo, has been speaking with me.
We don't have that yet, but thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar. He's our Ashanti regional correspondent, bringing us update as regards what's happening at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. We stay on health and power because the 72-hour deadline given by the Electricity Company of Ghana to hospitals with outstanding bills to pay up is fast approaching. The ECG has warned that these hospitals will be disconnected from the national grid in the coming days if they fail to make some commitment towards defraying their debt. Now, the ECG says 91 hospitals owe the power distributor and include 37 military hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital Ridge, among others, or an estimated amount of 261 million Ghana cedis in total. But the Ministry of Health says that it is ready to amicably resolve the debt situation owed by some 91 hospitals. Let's hear again the PRO for the ministry, Isaac Ofeba.
First place, I think that it's not the interest of the Electricity Company of Ghana to go and disconnect the facilities. Neither is the interest of the hospital facilities not to pay electricity bills after using electricity in discharge of their duties. However, in as much as we all admit the fact that some hospitals are owing Electricity Company of Ghana and they need to make some payment to avoid disconnections. One of the measures that we are trying to put in place is to how to measure the clinical consumption. When we are able to talk about the clinical consumptions, then we can also talk about the facilities that are being built on the hospital. And by the time those things comes out, government would be compared to see reason whether or not to allow the hospitals to continue to pay their bills or to absorb that for them. Some of these facilities that we are talking about have the user fee that people who come to use their facility pay to them. And so if it's on the hospital, that the hospital should be taking care of those facilities, I don't think that we are being fair to the management of the various hospitals. And so a lot of measures are being put in place. It is not only this disconnection that led to the negotiations. These negotiations started somewhere last year, where the minister wrote to Ministry of Energy that, look, the kind of bills that comes every month, I don't think the hospitals will be able to stand on it. So let's separate the meters. As far back May 2023. So let's do separation of meters so that everybody is able to account for what he has consumed.
Meanwhile, the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, Kwabena Minta Akando, has described the indebtedness of some 91 hospitals nationwide to the Electricity Company of Ghana as disturbing.
It is a disturbing news, and what we must all know is that healthcare delivery in this country is a social good. And so, especially when it comes to the public health care centers, we must be thinking more about the welfare of the people than breaking even and making profits. And so that is why past governments had some kind of subventions to take care of utilities in the various hospitals. And so if you could recall, government has announced the scrapping of those subventions. And so what it means is that the hospitals themselves will have to raise money to take care of their utilities. And the bills are very, very huge. Bills are very high. And so even when government was paying these bills for the for the health facilities, you know how they were struggling. Not to talk about withdrawing these interventions. Once you withdraw the interventions, it will have dark consequences on the healthcare delivery in this country.
Mr. Akando is also asking for a probe into how the hospitals utilize their internally generated funds.
For me, I am for anybody who will tell you that let's investigate this huge amount of money. Is it the case that these consumptions have gone into proper healthcare delivery, or it's been abused, or people are using the power for commercial activities at these various facilities? Then we can have a certain conversation around that. But if you tell me that, look, because they need to be in operation and they have to pay and all that, how are they going to pay? How are they going to pay if they don't have the money? So, afraid, it's a very sensitive issue that we need to, think through. Yes, we know that we have the IGF, the internally generated funds, for every health facility. But you ask yourself how much. And even in some cases, this IGF in the various hospitals, they pay some back in the central point, We have to begin to look at the capacity for these hospitals to raise funds internally. Is that the case that they are raising enough funds internally and is being abused? It's not being applied for its intended purpose, or is being misapplied? So we must go into all this. But for the time being, the hospitals must be in operation, because the lives that you will lose given this policy, we cannot reverse them.
And you had the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, an MP for Dwabuso, Kwabena Minta Akando. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice, so do stay with us. And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. Let's go to George Quenning, who is following that meeting the police top hierarchy is having with the Electoral Commission ahead of the 2024 general election. George, what can you report about this meeting?
Thank you, Beatrice, for having me. Good afternoon to our cherished listeners. So, Beatrice, this is a meeting between the top hierarchy, like you rightly said, top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service and the leadership of the Electoral Commission, led by the chairperson, Jim Mensah, and also on the side of the police service, led by the IGP, Judge Kufuor. And so, realistically, the Electoral Commission actually engages stakeholders prior to elections. But with this very one, it was the IGP that called the meeting ahead of the Electoral Commission. But all the same is just to strengthen policies or programs that will be put in place ahead of the election. Obviously, we need a transparent, credible, and peaceful election. So this is to ensure that we have that in 2024, 7th December.
All right, but can you tell us, we can see some images of some of the top officials there. Can you tell us what's happening around there, in addition to the information you've given us as regards the focus of this meeting?
So we have directors of administration, operation, legal, and all that part of the meeting. That's on the side of the police service, and on the side of the Electoral Commission, you have the director of electoral services, reforms, administration, and all that there. But one key thing that the IGP mentioned is the fact that they are going to change their approach to election security. There's not going to be the institution of a task force few days to the election. It's going to be continuous. It's going to be on a daily basis. And so this is the highlight of his message today. There's going to be a change in approach of election security moving forward.
Thank you very much, George Quenning, bringing us an update of that meeting between the Electoral Commission and the police service. Now, it's a murder and a revelation around the incident that has shocked many in the Upper West regional town of Jirapa. I'm talking about the murder of the owner of Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, also known as Jirapa Dubai owner Eric Johnson. The incident occurred last month, and yesterday, the court which heard the case said that an HR officer who was sacked by Mr. Johnson collaborated shared with his girlfriend, another employee of the hotel, to kill the man. Residents, still in a state of shock, filled the courtroom to capacity. I'm joined by our Upper West regional correspondent, Ibrahim Wangara. Ibrahim, what more can you tell us about how residents are reacting to not just the murder of the man, but the revelations that came from the court yesterday?
Yes, residents are currently in a shock even than before because what was revealed to them in the court has made people, down to their marrow, in the sense that people nowadays are even raising concerns as to how or the legality of them adopting or organizations accepting national service personnel being posted at their various places. They are saying this because the Belinda in question, who aided or masterminded the killing or the boyfriend to be able to kill Mr. Johnson, was a national service personnel posted to the place. So, but because of girlfriend-boyfriend issues, that the Belinda lady and then the boyfriend were both sacked from the place. But due to some reasons, the national service personnel in the person of Belinda was called back. So it's after her return, she, alongside the boyfriend, managed to have access into the private residence of Mr. Johnson, which is also located within the perimeters of the Jirapa Dubai, and they were able to do away with this man. One other thing, residents are very, very angry. And if care is not taken according to some of them, should they have access to any of these victims or accused persons, they will not hesitate to take the law into their own hands, because they think that the former HR officer of Jirapa Dubai has done something terrible, something bad to the entire region, not only to the family of Mr. Eric Johnson.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. And that was Ibrahim Wangara. He's our Upper West regional correspondent. Let's get some more on this. Superintendent Peter Lanchini-Tobu is a former police officer and MP for Wa West. He joins us live on the line. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sister Beatrice. Good afternoon to your cherished listeners.
This must be close to you by virtue of the region. And of course, like I said, you have been a police officer. You've been in the police service before, and I believe conducted some interviews yourself. How do you interpret the evidence presented to the court yesterday?
Thank you very much. Yesterday, while I listened to the prosecutor and reading the facts that he presented before the district magistrate court, and in fact that is a committal process. It's a committal process to ensure that this murder case is tried at the appropriate quarters at the High Court, of course by the Attorney General. But what the police prosecutor is doing now is to ensure that he proves that there is a prima facie case and these suspects are worth trying. The prosecutor virtually presented the facts, and the facts are so cogent to conclude that these three people, very particularly the first and second accused persons, had something directly to do with the murder of Eric Johnson. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Eric Johnson is somebody from Jirapa, and traditionally I am from Jirapa myself. In fact, he's a family member who were really, really touched on hearing the heinous murder of Eric Johnson in cold blood. Technically, what the prosecutor has done is basically reading the facts from the investigators and telling the court that this is the beginning of the matter, and we are trying as much as possible to commit the matter to the High Court for trial. And when that is successful, the Attorney General is going to prepare bills of indictment, and the proper trial would progress at the level of the High Court with the involvement of the Attorney General.
Superintendent, there have been circumstances where people describe some of the investigations or evidences we gather as circumstantial. Based on what was presented yesterday, you don't see it that way. You think that those are real facts that could lead to prosecution in the end?
I am privy to what the police has done so far, and I think that I need to thank the Commissioner of Police, CID, the Inspector General of Police, for the seriousness they attach in the investigation of this heinous crime that was committed in Jirapa. I am privy to the fact that they brought in a lot of experts fingerprint expert, crime scene expert. As much as we understand that the investigators are going to take information from people, bystanders, all these put together can point to one fact which was presented yesterday at the court. So basically, it's not about circumstantial evidence. It's about the fact that you need pieces of evidence that can be backed by science. If these pieces of evidence are backed by science, you can be sure that it can be proven. And if that is proven, these people can actually be committed. In fact, it can be criminalized, and this prosecution cannot fail.
All right, we'll have to end it here with you. Superintendent Peter Lanchene-Tobu, thank you very much for sharing your perspectives with us. I'm also joined for a quick conversation by security analyst Adib Sani. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you might have heard Peter Lanchene-Tobu given his interpretation of the evidence presented in court. From where you stand as well, you think the evidence is scientific enough? What do you see yourself?
Well, I don't know to what extent the police has gathered in evidence and what type of evidence has been gathered. Because one of the major issues that I have spoken about in the past has got to do with the circumstantial nature of prosecutions. I mean, any serious judge will not take you serious and might just throw the case out. But once it is backed by science, and I understand fingerprints experts and, other experts have been involved in that process, it really helps speed up the investigation and probably the prosecution. Because my worry is I don't want this to be yet another Fenwick Autry wild goose chase, or J.B. Dankwa, or Madame Josephine Asante, or Ahmed Swale and the rest. Because prosecution, especially with murder cases, has always been a major challenge, considering the manual and circumstantial nature we deal with these matters. But now that we're backing it with science, probably the use of DNA, etc., I'm hoping that it helps break the case and the perpetrators will be brought to book as soon as possible.
In addition to what you've spoken about, what do you think we can do more specifically in this case?
Well, we have to establish three major issues. That is the motive, the means, and the opportunity. What is the probable motive? Because crime doesn't just happen in a vacuum, okay? There should be a motive, either money, either a misunderstanding, either a business deal gone bad, or an old beef that has to be settled the hard way. Also, we have to establish whether they had the opportunity, okay, to be able to do it, whether they live with him, whether they have unfettered access to him, whether they have the keys to his room, whether they even have access to the weapons that could have been used to perpetrate the crime. And the last is the means, whether they have the capacity, the capability to be able to perpetrate that crime. This, alongside other evidence, eyewitness statements, I think would help to a large extent in breaking the case.
Wended here. Thank you very much, Adib Sani, security analyst. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. When we come back, we'll bring you what the Vice President is doing about Ghana Card for Children. Don't go away.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba. A freezer. Adama, a craftsmanship. Adama. Metimosua, my sorry. Canino, over Moasia. I do fresh the Nobium Unum and San last night. I don't know what we did. Adama for Adama, from we say, yet the Adruba Cope, a ship we be a high technology. I could for freezer. When Kwan, and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what ya no fugum. What the boss here, if we be any of us, you, equity self, over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. No matter not for now, freezer, power up a day, freezer.
Basia, a basson do so among Ammoniaji.
Me what's he car? Me, but you may not do some doom. Adama, with that Adama, no, Adama, you can't resist.
Benya Adama West Africa for a dream, or baby bear a tongue cry on you. I feel Kayona Kenkai in Choya, a dream.
You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. Now, children between 6 weeks and above are to receive the Ghana card and registration numbers at birth from today, the 14th of March. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who launched the system, is confident it will allow the government to track the number of children born and those who enroll in schools.
Provided with a unique identity, linking them to their mother's identity and securing their place within our national identity system. This monumental integration effort is not just about issuing a Ghana card number. It is about recognizing and affirming the rights and existence of our youngest citizens from the moment they enter this world. It is about laying a foundation for their future, ensuring that they have access to health, education, and social services without unnecessary barriers. The Ghana card number at birth system promises many benefits. It provides documentary evidence of legal identity, social relationship, and rights from birth and ensures social protection.
You have Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, the Executive Director of the National Identification Authority, Professor Ken Atefa, give details of the number of Ghanaians who have so far been registered.
Today, we begin the process of registering Ghanaians with identity. Ghanaians with identity are, generally speaking, those who are about 6 weeks old, haven't been outdoored or gone through a naming ceremony and been given a name of their own, identity of their own. So we are not registering baby Mildred because the baby's mother is called Mildred. We're going to be registering Ghanaian babies who have been given identity. And that, in the context of Ghana, culturally speaking, is approximately from age 6 weeks and above. That is also because one of the challenges in registering babies is the question of the development of their biometrics, particularly the fingerprints, and the fact that the faces of babies change so rapidly or quickly. It has been determined by the science and by the biometrics and technology departments of our respective institutions that commencing from age 6 weeks up to age 6 is reliable and will give us value for money. Beyond that stage, and so today we begin the issuance of identity, unique personal identification numbers.
Professor Ken Atefa is the Executive Director of the National Identification Authority. Now, former President John Mahama says he stands vindicated when in 2016 he said that posterity will be his best charge when he painfully lost the elections. On a drive to get young people to vote massively for the National Democratic Congress, the party flag bearer this afternoon is charging the younger generation never to allow themselves to be deceived.
And so, I am certain that the good people of Ghana have seen through the misinformation that they were fed in 2016. I said, and I believe that everything God does is necessary, and everybody must go through his own experience to move to the next level of understanding. And so it was meant to happen. And so in 2016, I said, posterity shall be the judge. But you know, in the Bible, posterity used to take generations. Your great-grandchildren and great-grandchildren's children will come before God exacts his anger. But now we have a digital God. He serves the judgment very quickly, immediately, in real time. He serves it now. So Ghanaians have come to the judgment that it's been 8 years of going in reverse. This driver did not know that there was a forward gear. And so he changed into reverse and he's moved our country backwards. And the point I make is, when a driver has been reckless with your vehicle, and he's going to
Former President John Mahama there. That's how we end the news here on 3FM. Our top stories. Electoral Commission meets top hierarchy of police service as part of preparations for the December 7 general election. Also, doctors at Konfanoche Teaching Hospital in Kumasi locked in a meeting over whether or not we brought you that update that meeting was over and management was awaiting the decision from doctors. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to 3news.com for more news.
FM 92.7.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily. Coming up, Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications attributes current nationwide internet disruptions to outages on multiple submarine fiber optic cables. We'll hear from its Chief Executive Officer, Engineer Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe. Also, ahead of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting's 117th meeting to review developments in the economy, we'll hear from an economist urging the Bank of Ghana to maintain its key lending rate at 29%.
I expect they will hold the rate constant at 29% to firmly anchor inflation on the downward path.
Plus, banks cautioned on credit processes to reduce high non-performing loans recorded.
To a bank, you are lending. And so if the bank will go down, it means that you are not getting the money that you are giving out back. And that's the only thing you have to do, is to strengthen your credit process.
Well, I'm Michael Obodu. Bring you details of our top stories and more shortly. Please stay. Thank you for staying with us. Straight now into the stories. As lead researcher at DCB Capital, Courage Boti, expects the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank to hold the policy rate constant at 29% during the 117th Monetary Policy Committee meeting. According to him, inflation rate is expected to increase in March. However, the movement will be transitory. Courage Boti is hopeful that the Monetary Policy Committee will not conclude on increasing the policy rate based on the envisaged inflation increase in March. He spoke to 3 Business.
I expect they will hold rates as a precaution and in keeping with the cautiously tight policy stance to firmly anchor inflation on the downside, really. But I wouldn't be surprised with another marginal cut, given where growth is. Growth is still depressed, and there is a need for that stimulus, really. So I won't be surprised with a marginal cut to stimulate growth. But base case, I expect they will hold the rate constant at 29% to firmly anchor inflation on the downward path, given that we expect some increase in March, which would correct thereafter. And so, in my mind, a next rate cut should most firmly be in May. But then I won't be surprised if they deliver a marginal 50 to 100 basis point cut later this month.
So that was lead researcher Courage Boti at DCB Capital. Away from that, The president of ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, Dr. Ajekum Nana Donko, is urging banks to be cautious with their credit processes to reduce non-performing loans on their books. Although the January 2024 monetary policy report of the Bank of Ghana indicates a significant reduction in bad debts recorded by banks, it still remains a problem for such financial institutions. He believes the non-performing loans incidence can be reduced to the barest minimum if banks follow the standard loan procedures. He spoke to 3 Business at the NIBS Future Ready Leadership Summit held in Accra.
So commercial banks that are going through challenges or crises, I think what they have to do is to take their credit process very well. Because you're a bank, you are lending. You are borrowing and you are lending. And so if the bank will go down, it means that you are not getting the monies that you are giving out back. And that's the only thing you have to do is to strengthen your credit process. Get the right people there. They should have knowledge of what they are doing. They must be credible, number 2. And above all, they must also make sure that they go through processes and procedure. You should not circumvent process and procedures. For example, if this is the way you have to do through in order to get a project approved. Don't circumvent it. Make sure that you go through the process. And that's what I talk about governance. Make sure the right things are done. And I believe that when the right things are done, definitely you'll be able to achieve your goal. And I also said this morning about credibility. Leaders must be credible. And I think that if you look at all the speakers, if you listen to all the speakers today, you realize that everybody's talking about credibility. Credibility is very, very key. If the leader is credible, it solves about 50% of all the challenges.
Also, that was President of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, Dr. Ajekum Nana Donko. Let's now turn our attention to one of our top stories. You may be experiencing some internet data and voice over IP disruptions since morning. Well, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has attributed this to outages on multiple submarine fiber optic cables that come into the country. According to the chamber, investigations have been carried out to resolve the problem to restore service to customers and subscribers. Engineer Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications.
There are multiple optic fiber submarine cables that come into the country and provide international gateways for data and internet services, as well as voice over IP and other IP services. However, there have been different challenges with these different operators, and so because of that, customers would be experiencing some challenges in their data services. However, the MNOs and the data service providers in Ghana are working with their international partners and those who provide these data submarine services to be able to resolve the challenges as soon as possible, including looking for redundant services to be able to do the international connection. And so all of that is being done, and I'm pretty sure very soon we'll be able to see some of these problems being resolved.
So that was the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Engineer Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, speaking there. Now, Ghana's plan to attain 146 gigawatts of solar PV by 2060 may hit a snag if efforts are not made to address the difficulty in accessing land for renewable energy projects. This was revealed in a recent report by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology on the political economy of land access for large-scale solar projects in Ghana. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the launch of the report, lead researcher Dr. David Atokwansa stressed the need to create land banks as a way of de-risking the land acquisition process for potential investors.
It does affect it because if the land issues are not streamlined, the cost of projects would go up, and so it will require a lot more money for you to do projects in Ghana compared with elsewhere. So we can lose investment to other competitors. You know, capital is free to go anywhere. So yeah, it can affect it. So there is a need to streamline the process. So in today's workshop, some of the recommendations that have come up is that there is need for intersectoral collaboration. So, for instance, the Lands Commission, the Ministry of Energy, and other actors can streamline the process, of course, together with those who own the land.
So that was lead researcher from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology on the political economy of land access for large-scale solar projects in Ghana. Dr. David Atokwansa there, bringing an end to Business Daily. For more business stories, please visit our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Black Rasta is already in the studio. Stay tuned.